Hi, my name is Barby, and about 15 minutes ago I spilt my coffee all over myself, so that's how my day has started. How is your day? Let me know in the comments, or don't. You're here regardless. So anyways, today I'm going to be talking about my unpopular horror opinions. So you might be thinking to yourself, didn't you just do a video on this? But no, I did a video about the things that bother me a lot in horror movies, like overused concepts, stuff like that. This is going to be a little bit different because it's kind of straight up stuff that most people would not agree with, but that I honestly feel myself. So without any further ado, I'm going to start off on my most recent opinion that I formed, and that is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. So if you're not familiar with this movie, this just came out this year. It's a British horror movie, and it takes Winnie the Pooh and makes it absolutely evil. So could it have been better? Yes, absolutely. Pretty much the only antagonists are a feral Winnie the Pooh and a feral piglet, and everybody else is kind of just nowhere to be found. There is a kind of a reason for that, because when these animals went feral, they ate all of their own in the 100-acre wood. But regardless, I will admit the makeup was cheap. It looked like they had masks on. Pooh Bear, although he was very scary, did look like a dude in a mask, and half the time I thought he was going to just take off the mask and that was going to be it. So obviously that did not work to the film's advantage. However, for something that has a 4% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, I expected it to be a lot worse than it was, which I should have learned by now that I can't go by what Rotten Tomatoes says, because they're often giving these art house pictures like extremely, extremely high ratings, and I can't get through them a lot of the time. But 4%, that's pretty low. I expected it to be pretty bad. So look, it wasn't perfect, and it really upset me, especially because I have a really soft spot for Winnie the Pooh. I grew up on Disney. I was a Disney kid. I'm a Disney adult now, if you want me to be totally honest with you. And yeah, it was uncomfortable. Pooh Bear is one of the sweetest characters of all time. That's one of the sweetest storylines of all time, and they took it and absolutely twisted it. So if you're not aware, the concept behind this movie is that Christopher Robin left all the animals in the 100-acre wood without food. So they went completely feral. One day, they were so hungry, they were looking for something to eat, and the only thing they could think to eat was Eeyore, so they ate him. Now, Christopher Robin grows up, and he takes his girlfriend / fiance to the 100-acre wood to look for his old friends. Now, obviously, when he finds them, they're not exactly what he expected, and very quickly, there's a lot of bloodshed and a lot of drool coming from Pooh Bear's mouth, and just a lot of really, really nasty gore. And although I've said in the past I don't like gore, this is one of those movies where it served its purpose. So I don't understand why everybody hates this. I mean, it's not perfect, it's not even great really, but it's definitely not 4%. It has so many absolutely horrifying moments, and honestly, Pooh Bear is super scary, and I would not go near him. And I just think the whole concept is riveting. And honestly, there is one scene where Christopher Robin is being brutally whipped with dead Eeyore's tail, and I have not been able to get it out of my head since. There are so many shocking things that happen in this movie. Someone's head is slowly run over by a car, people are put on meat hooks, people are eaten alive by Pooh. He pours honey on people who are still alive and then eats the flesh from their open wounds. It's wild, man. It is definitely something that required a lot of thought and a lot of time, and I found it to be kind of effective. I also didn't find the characters unbelievable, which a lot of the times in these higher rated films I do. So I'm just saying, if you've been on the fence about checking it out because you think that there are some really bad reviews, I would say to kind of disregard that. I'm gonna be honest with you, it was okay film-wise, but I did enjoy it. It did serve its purpose, and I think it was created to upset me, to make these things from my childhood uncomfortable, and that's exactly what it did. So I don't understand all the hatred for it. That's all I'm gonna say about that. You'll have to just watch it and form your own opinion, but really, it's interesting, and it is a brutal take on a classic childhood story. And I did not find it bad at all. So, Rotten Tomatoes, you've let me down once again. So my second unpopular opinion. This is ironic because today I'm wearing a Camp Crystal Lake hoodie. I love Jason Voorhees. I don't want anybody to get me wrong. I absolutely love Jason Voorhees, but he is not shit compared to Freddy Krueger. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of disagreements on this one. Usually, if you ask people Freddy versus Jason, Who do you prefer? 99% of people will say Jason. Now, I can understand that Jason has a higher kill count, actually probably one of the highest kill counts aside from Michael Myers. Mike Myers is not the same person. Anyways, I understand that his kill count is ridiculously high. I understand that he's super scary and he's big and he's jacked and he's got a machete. Great. That's great. That's fantastic. That's amazing. Freddy Krueger can kill you in your dreams, so what are you going to do about that? What are you really going to do about that? Nothing. Nothing. You can't do shit because you're asleep and because it's allegedly not real. So technically, he can do whatever he wants. There's nothing you can do to thwart him. You can maybe injure Jason, but Freddy, if he wants to get you, he's going to get you. And you're not going to wake up dead because you don't wake up dead, but you're going to not even know what hit you and your family's going to find you with all these scratch marks all over you. It's just a fucking nightmare, okay? So I get it when people say that Jason is their favorite. I get it that it's a semi-creative concept. It's mostly just slasher-centric, really, but, you know, he drowned when he was a kid. His mom takes revenge first, and then he comes back to take revenge himself in the later movies. I understand the appeal. I simply do not think that he is cooler than Freddy Krueger. Now, furthermore, I also understand that Freddy, as the movie series went on, got more funny than he did scary. I understand that he became kind of like a gimmick and kind of like a clown type thing, but we're looking at the bases here. We're looking at the roots, and just idea-wise, conceptually, I think Freddy wins every time. Because the whole thing is, like I said, you can thwart Jason. There's a couple of things you can do to at least buy yourself time. Freddy, it's just a matter of once you go to sleep, you're dead. And you gotta sleep eventually. You can't just stay up for the rest of your life. So I am hard-pressed to believe that Jason is anywhere near as creepy as Freddy is, at least in concept. And as a matter of fact, if you do look at the costume designs too, Freddy is a little bit more original. I understand hockey mask, haha, whatever, but Freddy is a bit more original. He's a bit more fun to do. He's a bit more fun to like do makeup. It's more fun to do Freddy Krueger makeup than it is to do a Jason costume because all he is a mask. So again, I mean, well, me personally, Freddy is probably my favorite slasher. I usually say Pinhead, but I'm not really positive if Pinhead is considered a slasher. The Cenobites, that's really debatable, so I'm gonna go ahead and say classically, I think Freddy Krueger is my favorite slasher. So yeah, Freddy wins over Jason. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry, and if you think otherwise, you are entitled to your incorrect opinion. Okay, so next, this is gonna be a book one, but it's worth mentioning. So, the Facebook group Books of Horror is really huge on this book. It's called The Last House on Needless Street. I understand why they're huge on it. I had a pretty great time with it. It was a lot of fun. However, I knew what was going on from the jump, and I don't understand how other people did not get it. Well, maybe I do. If you're not thinking in those kinds of terms, like, of course it can miss you. I mean, honestly, I just read The Watchers, and that whole big twist missed me the whole time, even though it was right in front of my face. Like, I still did not figure it out, so I get it. But the thing is, there were just so many signs for me that was coming, that when the end finally confirmed my suspicions, I was not riveted, I was not rocked off my seat, and for that reason, I gave it 3 stars. Look, you should definitely give it a try. If you don't know what's going on and you can't figure out the twist early on like I did, you're going to be in for a wild ride. But I don't know what it is. Maybe I've just seen too many movies and read too many books related to what the twist was, but from the jump, from the very beginning, I understood. I knew that that was the direction we were going in, and I hoped I was wrong. Like, I hoped that it would shock me in some other way, but it did not. It went the exact route that I've seen a million times before, and it just did not surprise me. A lot of people do claim that this book really surprised them. It took the air out of their lungs. It had their jaws on the floor, and I hope you're one of those people, because I wish that had been my experience. Like I said, it was not by any means a bad book. I just wish that I had not gotten it so early on so I could have enjoyed it more. That being said, I've also read another book by the same author called Sundial, and while this one is not really twisty per se, I mean, there's a couple things in there that are, you know, surprising, but I found it much better. I found it much more enjoyable. I really liked it a lot more, so definitely give that one a shot if you have read Needless Street. Even if you haven't, if you want to get one that you're sure, like, is... My higher recommendation would be Sundial. So, If you want to check out this author, I would say I like Sundial a little bit better, but Needless Street is still worth it. So, lastly, this one I know a lot of people are really going to come at my neck for, but that's okay. I hate The Shining. I absolutely hate The Shining. I love Stephen King. I love most of his stuff. The Shining is not on that list, and I still years later, I have read the book up until like page like 600 and something. I don't remember exactly, but I just know that I was bored the whole time. Even after stuff started popping off, I was bored. I hated the characters. I did not find the isolative setting really creepy, and the movie itself the movie adaptation of the book, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, just drags on. It just drags on and on and on. And I really just feel like I'm reading / watching the same people just repeat the same patterns over and over again. And the concept itself is really not that creepy. Probably the creepiest thing about The Shining is Jack's alcoholism. And I understand that that's a big part of the story, so that's intentional. But when you put the supernatural aspects in there, it's really not all that scary, and the book and the movie were both just terribly, terribly boring. So, I am sorry. Like I said before, I love Stephen King. I'm not saying that Stephen King can't write. I'm not saying that the movie wasn't well made. I'm just saying that The Shining just never quite did it for me. I think I'm like missing something there, guys. I really think I'm missing something. The one thing I will say is that Shelley Duvall, I thought, gave a really great performance as Wendy. Even though she could not look any more different than what they described Wendy as in the book, she still did a really, really great job. And I think that that's something that deserves, recognition. Not that she hasn't had any, but she had a really hard time shooting that film. The director was really, really difficult on her and often put her through a lot of emotional distress and strain. And later on, she ended up completely leaving Hollywood, so that probably tells you something, right? But my reasons for disliking The Shining have nothing to do with directorial influence or even any of that. It just kind of has to do with the fact that the story itself is not for me. I think it's very slow, and I think that the fact that it's hailed as Stephen King's best work by a lot of people is rather wild. I mean, like, even Carrie, which was his first novel and was the first Stephen King novel I ever read, is leaps and bounds better, and a lot of people don't agree with that. Of course, we have the, Pet Sematary and Salem's Lot, which are also better, but are also highly revered, highly loved. And while I would say I do understand the appeal to an extent of The Shining, just never something I could get into, just too redundant, too repetitive, and too slow. So I'm going to give you guys a bonus unpopular opinion, which is not entirely horror related, but just something that I want to get off my chest. Fuck Pulp Fiction. Okay? I'm not even going to elaborate on that one. Just, there's no plot. There's none. I'm sorry. I don't actually think I've ever seen a Quentin Tarantino movie that I've enjoyed. Although I would say Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was the closest thing. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching, and next time I'll have some true crime stuff for you. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you should definitely hit the subscribe button. And if you're not interested in that kind of stuff, you should still hit the subscribe button. And if you don't hit the subscribe button, I'm coming to eat your firstborn.